excited. We're going to go on to the show at Denton, watch some military stuff. I actually brought along my old driver's license for the military, so to ensure that I can drive somewhere.
This is our Hemet, and we're here at the Denton Farm Park for the Denton Military Show. We got our bed on, got our lights working, so we're here to have a little fun today. And I hope you enjoy this video. We've got some great highlights to feature. And stay tuned, enjoy, and check us out online. Thanks. All right, here we are at the Denton Military Show, and we ran into this wonderful gentleman, Mr. Spillman from Yadkinville. He brought this 1941 white Halftrack, and we just really appreciate him bringing that out, and he's going to tell us a little information about it, and he's going to give us a ride too, so stay tuned.
Yeah, she's a 1941 M2A1 Halftrack. I found her in a million pieces, not too far from me. But I'd restored a Jeep first and had such a good time. I went over and visited. It was actually an old electronics teacher of mine that had it, and we looked at it, and I'm like, oh yeah, we can do this. But she was a lot more trouble than the Jeep was to restore.
Yeah.
But we have a lot of fun with her. Do a lot of parades, do a lot of events around home, VFW. You know, we like to work close with the veterans any chance we get. Take them for rides, let them throw candy in the parades. So
yeah,
awesome. we have a good time.
So how many months or days or years did it take you to do that?
Well, people are kind of surprised sometimes. I got her going in about 2 years.
Yeah.
As far as
awesome.
Actually being ready for a parade.
Yeah.
But that was in 2020, and there wasn't any parades.
Right.
So I was all dressed up, nowhere to go.
Yeah. Now, as far as you mentioned that basically from this point back, you had to recreate.
Yeah.
Did you have drawings, or you just kind of said, "Hey, this looks good"?
No, there were some. There's a real good forum on the internet about Halftracks.
Okay.
With all kinds of information and drawings, and all of it's not perfect, but it's pretty good stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, I had the plates cut. This is just 1/4-inch steel.
Yeah.
Up here is face hardened armor from here forward. But yeah, I laid out all the holes, and we went to work drilling and countersinking and. Using hundreds of these little flathead 3/8 24 fine threads, and they've all got lock nuts on them.
Yeah.
So that was a
well. I've noticed a few things like this D-handle bronze shovel holder is the same as on our World War I 1918 Holt, and here we have 1941. Some years later, they're still using that same thing. So,
that's pretty cool.
It's really neat. White built the engine, of course.
Yeah.
What'd you have to do to the engine?
I've got the original engine that came out of it. It's in pretty rough shape.
Yeah.
But that engine is actually an Israeli rebuilt engine.
Oh, okay.
If you look at the data plate on the side, it's in Hebrew.
Oh, wow.
The specs for when it was last rebuilt. And I pulled the head off of it before I put it in, and it still had the crayon marks on the valve, so it had never been cranked after it was rebuilt.
New old stock, huh?
Yeah. So,
wow.
But like I said, I've got the original engine. That's the same kind of engine, but
not numbers matching.
Yeah. But she runs great.
Yeah.
Big old long stroke, runs quiet.
Yeah. And this is not just a showpiece. You love to cruise around in it.
Oh,
right?
yeah. We get out, we do local events. All the events in the county we drive to.
Yeah.
All the parades, all the VFW stuff, the stuff at the Veterans Park, the town celebrations they have, like a harvest festival. Yeah, she's pretty well known around Yadkin County as far as Bertha. Bertha's the name of it up on the pulpit. That was my great aunt's name.
Yeah.
She was a tough old gal, so I thought it would be good.
So it took you 2 years to restore. How long did it take you to find all the accessories that you've got on this?
That was the fun part. After I got her going, then you could start. I call it the bling.
Yeah.
You can start getting the sacks and the all the different stuff. The bazooka and the tripods for the machine guns and the
it's all period correct, right?
Oh yeah. You try to get all the period correct stuff. Got the little intercom to go in. And it's always cool too when you you buy a part and you get it in, you get this NOS part out of the, you open it up and it's cosmoline or that wonderful smell. Or if it's an electrical part, it's got a big bag of desiccant or something in it. And you open it up and it's an 80-year-old part. But then you go to mount it and the mounting holes are already there. Because what you got right there was exactly what was there back in the 40s.
Well, I mean, you mentioned earlier off camera that military kind of found something that worked and they stuck with it with a long period of time. So on that aspect, it does make it a little easier. So.
And like you said, this is a white. The engine and the vehicle are white. They also Diamond T and Autocar made the exact same vehicle, and they all used the white engine. International Harvester also made a half-track, but it was quite a bit different. From a distance, it looks the same, but you get up close, different engine, different body, different everything. And a lot of those went to Russia. Because they were our friends back then.
That's right.
So
when you transport this around, it weighs roughly what?
About 16,000 pounds.
And that's with all the bling.
Now, if it was fully loaded with ammo and all, I think the weights were closer to about 19,000. If they were going into battle.
And obviously it's a gasoline motor. How big is the fuel tank?
It's got two 30-gallon tanks.
Oh, wow.
It's supposed to get 3 miles to the gallon is what the manuals say, but I think that's a little optimistic. I think it's a little less than that. The tank on this side is actually an original rubber tank where if you shot it, it self-seals. I got a reproduction tank on the other side. That's the one I use. So I just put 30 gallons at a time.
So is it a 4-speed or? It's
a 4-speed with high and low range. So 8
really
forward gears and 2 reverses. But it needs them though because it's 16,000 pounds and that big old it's a 386 cubic inch flathead with 147 horsepower.
And then you got a big old winch on the front too. So a little nose heavy, huh?
Oh yeah, you can you got the tracks, you can engage the front wheels, plus you got the 10-ton winch. So if you get in trouble, you did something stupid.
Now, some of them I've seen, they would have a big roller on the front to cross ditches.
Those were the roller models. They were the ditching. They're supposed to. You drive the front end into the ditch, and then you can push up the side and come out of it. They didn't have the big extension. The roller was a lot closer.
That's right. That's maybe what mounted right here.
That's what this might have been cut at one time. You can see the really crappy welding there. But
now did the front end have all these lights and things, or you had to source all that too?
I found a lot of that. They the early half tracks had a light mounted on the fender. Then later on they went to our government at work. They had trouble with according to what armament was on the half track. When they shot it, it would blow the headlights out. So they came up with something. We need to make removable headlights. So that's when they came up with these pedestal lights. It made them really complicated with all kinds of little electrical fittings. But they made them so, I guess before you go into battle, it's like time out. And you can pull over and you can.
Oh wow! Look at that.
You can take the lights out. And stow them in the back. There's a little holder in the back corner. And I'm sure that never happened. So
well, they gave you the flexibility to turn that into a spotlight too.
But you got little gaskets and all kinds of stuff. You got electrical connections and even made it so you can. It's got a little dummy plug so you can keep the water out. So like I said, our government.
A lot of moving parts there.
It was fun trying to find all the parts to put that back together.
I can imagine.
So
that's cool. So tell us the significance of this.
My dad was in World War II. And he was a foot soldier, and he never talked much about the war like most of the old veterans didn't. He told about the funny stuff, but I do know that he hitched a ride on armor any time that he could, whether it be a tank, a half track, whatever, anything to keep him from walking, because he came in through France and basically walked all the way to Austria. So he welcomed any ride he could get. When I did the numbers through my research, I knew that 10th Armored 54. They were in close proximity to where Dad was when he crossed Europe. So I was like, hey, maybe he rode on some of their vehicles. So that's where the 10th Armored 54th Infantry, that's where that came from. The B is because I named her Bertha, and you always want the company letter to match what you named the vehicle. In 71st, Daddy was in the 71st Infantry. So that's where the numbers came from.
Good, a little homage to your father then. So that's awesome. What was probably the hardest thing to find when you were in the middle of restoration and decking it out? Or did you have a one item?
I don't know if it was one item. The good thing about the government, they made a bazillion spare parts. And a lot of guys have been collecting this stuff for years and years and years. And if you can find the right individual, he's got pretty much anything you would want.
Right.
It might not be cheap, but he's got it.
Right. Well, you know,
there's about 3 individuals that I probably got 90% of
Oh,
what
wow.
I needed from.
Yeah.
I actually got some parts out of Europe too. You know,
Yeah.
we left all this stuff behind.
Right.
So there's more half tracks in Europe than there are in the United States.
Yeah.
And the parts wasn't that expensive, but the shipping was terrible.
Oh, I bet.
So I didn't do too many that way.
Yeah. That
But,
was before all the high tariffs then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the this one, it never went overseas. The story
okay.
the story that came with her, she was used on a training base in Colorado
Yeah.
in World War II. After that, she went to a railroad. I
Yeah.
don't know why. Said pulling cars around the yard, something, I don't know.
Yeah.
And then she went to Texas and set for,
Yeah.
pick a number, 50 years, 60 years, I have no idea.
Well, that's our Holt 10-ton that we have. We think it went to Camp Green in Charlotte when they were doing a big recruitment effort there and training soldiers for World War I. So it's got an odometer shows 3 miles, and the tractor really shows like it was light use.
Yeah.
So we think it was never deployed either.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, a lot of that stuff that got deployed. I mean, they brought the tanks back, the high dollar stuff, but they left the Jeeps and the half tracks.
Right.
And, you know, a lot of them they pushed in the ocean.
yeah, which
And,
is a shame.
Yeah, so yeah, she never went overseas. But
So what's considered the top speed in this fully loaded?
on the data plate it says 40 miles an hour.
Oh wow.
I think that's rated at this kind of calculated the big old long stroke engines. I think the red line's 3,000.
Right.
So just doing the math, 3,000 RPMs with 4th gear,
Yeah.
about 40 miles an hour.
Yeah.
When I go to events, she likes 20, 25 is her happy
That's
speed.
a sweet spot.
I might hit 30 going down a hill. And
Yeah.
I have no doubt if the hill was big enough, she'd run 40, but
Oh yeah.
but why?
Yeah. There's no need to
Unless
push.
ain't nobody shooting at me.
No,
hopefully.
no.
So
Yeah, well, that's really cool. Now, you mentioned you have a YouTube channel. You want to tell everybody what its name is?
yeah, aside from messing with these old military vehicles, I also am a beekeeper.
Yeah,
So the name of my YouTube channel and my little business is Half Tracks and Honeybees.
yeah.
So
And that's not a combination that anybody else
yeah,
probably
it's a
has,
little
right?
weird,
Yeah.
you know, but
Makes you unique.
where my shop is, where Bertha sits at, you know, I can look out the door and I can see about 10 hives, and I've got about 30 hives right now.
Yeah,
But part of them are right there at the shop where she's at, and the rest of them are up the driveway.
yeah.
But yeah, it works out good. You know, it's very recognizable for folks.
Yeah.
You know, they know I'm the guy with the half track and got the bees and selling
Yeah.
honey.
Well, I mean,
So-
it's only natural you got a sweet machine like this that
I
you'd
like
mess
that.
with honey
I like
too.
that.
So
yeah. So we sell a lot of honey. I think last year made a little over 200 gallons.
Oh
of
wow.
honey.
Yeah.
And,
Poor bees. They worked hard, didn't they?
They did good. They
Yeah,
did good.
yeah.
I try to treat them good, and they treat me right.
Yeah.
They still sting me every now and then, but
Oh, well.
for the most part, they treat me good.
Yeah, that's right.
So, but
Well, I just we'll put a link to his channel in the bottom of this video.
Okay.
But we just appreciate you, Keith, for taking the
that's
time
fine.
and effort and expense of hauling this beauty out here. And
well, I appreciate it.
Bertha is certainly a sight to be seen, and we really like the way you got it all decked out. And then we'll put some close-up shots so you can take advantage of the craftsmanship and the eye for detail that Keith has done with this unit here. So,
Well, we can take a ride here in a little bit if you want to.
other than that, that would be awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I
Oh,
think
that's
you
one of
just-
the best things about coming to this show. They got this big track that runs
Yeah,
around. It's
yeah.
like an all-day parade.
Yeah,
Just
well,
riding
we'll
around
do that.
waving at people.
We'll include that, but
Yeah.
again, we appreciate your time
Yeah,
for the
thank
interview.
you. Thank
yes,
you.
sir, and we look forward to that ride.
Yeah.
So, hopefully you'll stay tuned for the rest of the footage, and appreciate you chiming in.
As we've walked around the showgrounds today, we've noticed quite a few cotton uniforms that the soldiers of yesteryear would have worn into battle. Those uniforms likely had ties to this machine behind me. The Webb cotton press, invented by Samuel J. Webb in the 1880s, was first prototyped in Pennsylvania as a method of reducing cotton bales from 42 inches to a height of only 6. This made transport by rail far easier. With the prototype being a success, they were manufactured and distributed across the country as the largest press of its time. Today, only 3 remain, with the third being here at Denton Farm Park in North Carolina, as a towering relic to the history and impact it had on the textiles industry. Anyway, we've had a lot of fun here today. Let's go ahead and load up the Hemet, clean up, and head back to the shop. Thank you so much for joining us today, and we'll see you in the next video.
Well, we just finished up at the Denton Military Vehicle Show, met some really nice people, had a great time, enjoyed the sights and sounds, and we'll do it again next year. So hope you get an opportunity to come by and visit at the next show. Thanks and stay tuned.